So hello and welcome to your class for today. Now today we're going to look at page 83 and we're going to look at our reading comprehension exercise. Can you understand this text? Now let's take a look at letter A. Letter A says, read the article once. What does Nick Trend conclude about travel insurance? So the important information here now is, what does he conclude about travel insurance? So let's read the text very briefly, shall we? Now, travel insurance. Do I really need it? Regular readers of my column will know that the complications, costs and pitfalls of insurance are subjects I regularly try to tackle. I get follow-up inquiries from readers as a result. But the last article, 2 weeks ago, drew a very unusual response. It came from a reader called Edward, and here, slightly edited, is what he said. Now, Edward said, I am in my mid-60s and have been travelling regularly since my late teens. At present, I live in China and take about 60 to 70 flights a year, both inside the country and abroad, including to some dodgy places. I have never once paid for travel insurance. Naturally, I have had mishaps and dozens of cancelled flights. For example, 1968, stuck in a man in transit when a war broke out and all flights were cancelled. I treated it as an unexpected opportunity to visit the city. 1972, Rome. All documents and money stolen. I was repatriated by the British Embassy by train using a temporary document, 1 sheet of paper. I had to pay back the fare on arrival and received nothing else, surviving until Dover on fellow passengers' snacks. I have always put these incidents down to experience and dined off some of them for years. I'll read that sentence again. I've always put these incidents down to experience and dined off some of them for years. Never once have I been tempted to pay for insurance. Indeed, it is my firm conviction that, in the end, I've lost far less cash than I would have paid for policies. Moreover, many people I know have been ripped off by insurance companies that refuse to pay or find ways of paying less than the customer expected. Do you sincerely believe that travel insurance would have been worth it for me in the past or will be in the future? Obviously, Edward's approach is not for everyone. He is clearly a highly experienced traveller and he apparently enjoys taking risks. But he did make me think again about the whole question of travelling without insurance. After all, very few of us would bother to insure ourselves if we were spending a couple of days in London. So why do we rush out and buy cover when we jump onto a train to Paris for a weekend break? We are just as likely to get mugged or have things stolen in London as in Paris. And it is important to remember Edward's point that even if you have insurance, you can never be sure it will pay out when you need it. However, for all the limitations on travel insurance cover, where Edward's argument falls down, in my eyes, is on the question of medical cover. The Foreign Office travel advice pages, fco.gov.uk, are explicit in advising us not to travel without insurance, and the examples it uses to explain why are the potentially high cost of hospital treatment and medical repatriation. It quotes £35,000 to £45,000 for an air ambulance to return to the UK from the US East Coast and £12,000 to £16,000 for an air ambulance from the Canary Islands. The chances of having to use these services are minuscule, but the costs are so substantial that they would be a significant issue for most of us and not one we would like to have to deal with in such circumstances. On balance, while Edward's approach sounds temptingly refreshing, he is leaving himself open to some potentially very expensive risks. Now, That is our text. Now again, you may take a moment to reread it, but essentially the question in letter A is, what does he conclude about travel insurance? Does he conclude that it's necessary, unnecessary, worth it, not worth it? Let's check. Are you ready? So he concludes that it is worth having travel insurance, now especially in the case of having a medical emergency, now where the costs of repatriation now can be very expensive. So his conclusion, or he concludes that it is worth having travel insurance. What about you? Do you always get travel insurance? Now, let's have a look at letter B. Read the article again and mark the sentences T for true or F for false. So let's read the questions, the sentences 1 to 6. The writer was surprised by Edward's letter. Is that true or false? Number 2, Edward takes some domestic flights. True or false? Number 3, he sees travel problems as challenges. True or false? Number 4, he doesn't think that he has saved money as a result of not taking out insurance. Ooh, all those negatives, no? He doesn't think he has saved money as a result of not taking out insurance. Ooh, that's a tricky sentence. Number 5, the writer thinks we are at the same risk of crime at home as when we are traveling. And number 6, he thinks Edward is wrong about not taking out travel insurance because of the cost of medical treatment abroad. Now, I've kind of told you that one already, but I was feeling generous today. Now, pause the video, read the text again, and find the answers, true or false. Now, welcome back. Have you got some answers? Here we go. So the writer was surprised by Edward's letter. This is true. Now, because he says, no, it's a subject that he tackles regularly, but the attitude in this letter was quite refreshing. Now, Edward takes some domestic flights. This is true. No, he takes lots of flights, no, both abroad, no, and domestic. Number 3, he sees travel problems as challenges. This is true. No, they're challenges that you need to overcome. Number 4, he doesn't think that he has saved money as a result of not taking out insurance. Ooh, this is the tricky one. Is it true or false? It's false. No, we'll see why in just a moment. Number 5, the writer thinks we are at the same risk of crime at home as when we are traveling. This is true. No, he gives the example of being mugged, no, or having things stolen in London and Paris. No. Number 6, he thinks Edward is wrong about not taking out travel insurance because of the cost of medical treatment abroad. This, of course, is true. Now, let's have a look at number 4. He doesn't think that he has saved money as a result of not taking out insurance. And we're going to find this now if we look at the text now. And if you look in Edward's letter, now can you see his letter? More or less towards the end, this sentence. Now, let's read this sentence. He says, indeed, it is my firm conviction that in the end I have lost far less cash than I would have paid for policies. So Edward thinks now that he has saved money by not taking out insurance, no? Because he says the policies, no? He would have paid a lot of money with all his traveling on policies, no? So he thinks he has lost far less cash. So he has, in fact, saved money, no? Now, what about exercise C? Can you see exercise C? Now, in exercise C, we're going to look at the vocabulary. It says, look at the highlighted words and phrases and work out their meaning. Check with your teacher or your dictionary. Now, let's take a quick look at the words. So first of all, we've got pitfalls, tackle. Then we have dodgy mishaps. Then we have put these incidents down to experience and dined off. Then we have ripped off. Then we have would bother, falls down, and minuscule. Now, let's take a look at the definitions now of the highlighted words. Now, so the first word is pitfall, and a pitfall is an unforeseen obstacle. Now, so talking about the unforeseen obstacles there of insurance. Now, to tackle is a very nice verb, means to deal with, no? A problem, a situation, an issue, a subject, a topic, no, which is this case, no, the topic of insurance is dealt with, no, is tackled in his articles. Dodgy. What's the pronunciation there? Dodgy. Dodgy. Dodgy means unsafe, questionable, or suspicious. No, so he says he's traveled, no, a lot, no, even to some dodgy places, no, some unsafe or questionable places. Mishap. This is a very nice word. A mishap is a minor accident, no? So he says, I've had mishaps, no? I've had minor accidents, maybe losing luggage, getting lost, missing a flight, no? And dozens of cancelled flights. So a mishap is a minor accident. Now, there's a very nice phrasal verb here. Put these incidents down to experience, no? And the phrasal verb here is very nice. So you put something down to something. Put something down to something. Let's have a look. So you attribute these incidents to experience, no? So you attribute these incidents to experience. You put these incidents down to experience. You attribute them to experience, no? So you use experience to explain these incidents. Yeah, no problem. It's just experience. You attribute them to experience. Then we have dined off. And to dine is usually to eat something for dinner or to have dinner, no? So you dine off something, you eat it for dinner. In this case, past simple, dined off, you ate for dinner. So essentially here, what did he have for dinner? He had, no, his experiences and his stories. Now, ripped off. Now, to rip off is to cheat or con. Now, again, in this case, ripped, past simple, ripped off, cheated or conned. And especially, we use this especially when you perhaps pay too much money for something, no? So you are cheated or you are conned, no? Rip off, to rip off. It has lots of other meanings, of course, but in this context, no, you are cheated, no, by the insurance companies, probably because you pay too much money for your policy, no? Would bother. Now again, the verb bother is to make an effort. No, it's like, oh, I can't be bothered. I can't make the effort. So in this case, we have would bother, would make an effort. No, so it says very few of us would bother, no, would make an effort to insure ourselves if we were spending a couple of days in London. So it's really molestarse, tomar la molestia, no, to make that effort. Then we have falls down. Now, to fall down, in this case, it is an argument, no? So the argument fails, the argument collapses, or the argument does not succeed. No, so he says, where Edward's argument falls down, where Edward's argument fails or collapses, or where it doesn't succeed. And finally, minuscule means tiny, 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 very, 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 very small. No? So those are the meanings of the highlighted words. Now, remember, if you have any problems, questions, or doubts, just let me know. Thanks for watching.